All right, welcome back to Off the Tap. This week is episode 77, and we're doing Altstadt Brewery's Lager.
Ooh, I think it's all. Is it Altstadt Brewery? I'm not calling bullshit on the way that you pronounced it as I normally do. Is it Altstadt Brewing or Altstadt Brewery? We
Their
don't know.
website says Altstadt Brewery.
It does. It does. I stand corrected, sir. I stand
Yeah.
corrected. On the can, it is Altstadt Brewery.
If I had not have looked it up, I would have definitely said brewing company because it just makes so much more sense that way to
It
me.
does, and nobody's doing that. I mean, they're the exception to the rule because nobody's
Yeah.
doing Altstadt Brewery. They're going Altstadt Brewing, Prime
Yeah.
Brewings, whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
So obviously this is a lager coming in at 4.8% and 20 IBUs.
I didn't see so
So
can I'll confirm from the can 4.8%.
40.8,
Um
Jesus.
wow, it's whiskey in a can. No, 4.8% is confirmed on the can. I don't have IBUs, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, this is another can I really like, I think. It's very classic color toned.
It is, but I mean,
I love the font for Allstat. If that's even might be, is it Allstat or Allstott? You know?
I'm gonna say it's all stat.
Okay.
I'm sure that obviously tomato here, but I do like the branding as well. Very classic. We went to Renfest this weekend, and it
Oh
has a
yeah.
very yeah we took the kids, and it has a very Renfest
It's a very medieval look
yeah.
for sure.
Um, a couple of things I want to mention. So, Fredericksburg, Texas. So, obviously, it's going to have a
Yeah.
deep German heritage. And at least according to the can, I want to talk about the can and the branding in a minute. But one thing to talk about the can is they do brew all of their beers in the Texas Hill Country and traditional to the German beer purity laws.
Okay.
So,
I have
it's
no
going
idea
to
what that
be
means, but
four ingredients. That's
okay.
it. That's the only thing
Wow.
you can have. So, because apparently, even way back, imagine how crazy this is. Like, you know how there's this huge, which this is not on the list of things to cover today, but there's a huge movement towards like eating like fresh fruits and vegetables only because of all the additives that are in our food,
Mm,
like, colorants and all these other chemical additives. And
right.
like, that's what's leading to terrible health. Like, that was happening in beer way back in the day. And in the 1500s, they were like, no, 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 motherfuckers. You get
Well,
water, you get yeast, you get hops, and or barley. Okay, that's what you get. All right,
this is it.
because people are sneaking in cherries, and that's unacceptable or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it wasn't chemical additives, but nonetheless. So,
And we've come
yeah,
full circle as a society again with craft beer. They're just throwing anything in them now.
we have, and it only took 500 years for us to start doing it with our foods.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
it's the important things. That's why beer is always at the top of the or bottom, depending on the way that you're building your pyramid. But anyways, Allstat Lager. It's a Munich style lager made in Texas. 100% German malt, imported noble hops from the Hallertau region, and cold fermenting yeast from Weinstefan. I'm going to pronounce it that way. Germany, creating a perfectly balanced, smooth beer that is noticeably malty and finishes clean. The only
Mm.
thing that disappoints me about the can, because probably it's a smaller brewery, is the fact that it's wrapped and not printed.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, I didn't notice that. I don't know if I think this might have just been this batch of it maybe because there's
So like
picture.
we've had this argument before about like they just ran out and they were like,
Yeah,
"Fuck,
I think
get the."
so because online the cans are like actual cans.
I don't know if we called this out before, but they're like the Easter egg wraps. Remember those? You
Wait,
would
yeah,
put
for
the
like your
little
eggs. Yeah,
yeah, you put the little sleeve around it, drop it in the
yeah,
boiling water, and it sucks up on the
yeah,
outside. Yeah.
yeah. That's exactly what it's like. Um, so I'll tell you. I mean, I took a few sips already.
Okay.
Mouthfeel is very much clean and refreshing. So
Really?
I'll give them that. That's what it says online. I think you read that as well, but I didn't go in for a whiff though yet. I didn't really try to.
What makes their tap room that they're touting on the back of the can state of the art? I'm pretty sure they're all the same, right? I mean, no offense
I
to
don't
anybody's
know.
tap room. I'm sure you got stuff going on there. Hey, she pours beauty. Look at that.
Oh yeah, that's a nice head.
Yeah.
That's
And just
beautiful.
bubbly.
That is
Um,
beautiful.
all right, so I'm gonna give her a little sniffer.
Yeah, give her a taste, man. I'll tell you what, they got a picture
I
of
tell
their
you what.
I
No, go
tell
ahead.
you what, they got a picture of their brewery or tap room, I guess, and it is gorgeous.
So is that what makes it state of the art?
Wow. I
Am I
mean,
gonna have to
it's
check it
like,
out?
yeah, I mean, I think anyone that's listening should maybe go to it's ALTSTADTBEER, allstatbeer.com.
Okay, yeah, I think there's only two E's in it. I'm not quite not
Did
sure
I
how many
say
you
three
say.
E's? I felt like I said three E's.
We're on the struggle bus today, but go ahead.
Anyways, yeah, and you can go to visit on their website, and that's the first thing that pops up. This place is beautiful.
In
I've
Fredericksburg,
never seen a brewery that looks this like nice.
oh, I'm just getting. Are you looking at the internal?
No, I'm looking at the outs. I literally just clicked visit on their website.
Jesus Christ, that can't be right. There's no way.
That's beautiful.
No, no, no. That's got to be a downtown area or something.
I don't know
Holy
why they would do if
shnikes.
that's their brewery, that's insane.
No, dude, this has to be. They have a tractor museum on site.
Oh, dude.
They've
Yeah.
got custom tufted leather furniture that looks like a cigar room, and if it's not, they should be. The
Their
Rathskeller,
their tap room looks pretty sweet. I don't know what makes it
dude,
like state of the art, but
it looks like a small German city.
it does, right? The exterior?
Dude, the aerial photographs are fucking yeah, dude. That is holy shit, dude.
It's
They've got a
gorgeous.
fortune. No wonder they're having to wrap their cans individually. They spent all their
Yeah.
money on fucking stone.
They do have all of their I get what are their tanks that they brew all their beer in look like they're made out of
Yeah.
copper,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
really cool.
Obviously, classic copper stills. Um,
Yeah, dude, that's their beer garden.
wow.
Yeah.
Jesus, that is beautiful. Maybe it's because, I don't want to like call them out and I'm not like distilling them down to this.
Wow.
Maybe because it's so new,
Maybe,
maybe.
I don't know, but this is awesome.
I mean, this looks like it
This
came
is
out
like
of a
a
Chip and Joanna Gaines magazine.
yeah, I mean, this is like there's some cool things to do in Fredericksburg even if you go to like they do like markets or something out there too a lot.
Man,
But
Oktoberfest.
this is almost one of those things where like you take a trip to Fredericksburg just to go to this place.
Oh yeah, this is destination for sure. And
This
I
is
would
really
be
cool.
hard pressed to say, I don't know if they include it here on the visit page, but like, dude, this seems like a place where you could go and stay.
Yeah, like they have rooms available or something.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Holy
Imagine,
shit.
dude, getting room service from a brewer. Okay, listen. We've given out a lot of great ideas on this podcast. That might be one of the best ones we've given.
Dude, a B&B and
A B
B.
and B and B, dude.
Yes. Bed, breakfast, beers. I don't know what
Yeah.
the B acronym for cigars is, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Whew,
yeah, dude,
wow.
they
I
have
was
a
not
beer
expecting
garden.
that today.
Dude, they got a damn
That's
tap
nice.
room. Obviously, the brewery. They've got a restaurant on site, and I like the way they slap you right in the face with the charcuterie board because what doesn't fucking make you salivate?
Oh
And
yeah.
then they've got the cellar, and then they've got the grand hall, and then they've got the tractor museum. Jeez, you know what? This is like a bucket list, more so than other breweries. Sorry for all those that we've called out that we want to visit. There's really only one at the top of the list. This one
Yeah.
makes me
And
excited just based on pictures.
that has that has nothing to say like negatively to any of the other breweries because I still want to go to them. But this place is just awesome looking. Like this is a place I wouldn't even have to go to get beers to have fun.
No,
You know what I
dude.
mean?
I feel like I could get a lukewarm cup of water and a sandwich here and have a
And
blast.
that's what I'm saying, bro.
Dude, also,
Give me
all
a
of the
cigar in the
tractors,
tractor museum.
yeah, most of them seem to be steam driven, so that gives you a hint as to how
Oh,
old school the museum is. But yeah, dude,
yeah.
that's slamming. I was not expecting that either. That was a good little
Yeah.
win there.
It's a good little win. We do need to get back on task here though, because this is a pretty important episode we got going. This is going to be the end of season 2. We're going to be coming back to you at the start of the new year. Well, maybe not the start, but after the new year. And so what we're doing is we're doing a little bit of a cleaning out of the rest of these topics. We did this a few episodes ago, not a few episodes ago, but a few episodes back. um, and we
The
just kind of
Fina
we just kind of got to get them out of the way so that we can come back fresh and ready to
Dude,
roll.
this is fall cleaning
Yeah,
because
fall
that's the
cleaning.
term that we use a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, this is fall cleaning. We're cleaning the slate. We're getting some things off our chest.
Mm,
As we mentioned before, some things kind of get trapped in the past. We don't have a way to either, tailor them into the messaging, or there's not a good segue. As if you guys at this point think that we're halfway decent with segues. There's just not a way to squeeze them in, but they weigh on us heavy because they
yeah.
come up week after week after week, and we think this is the one. And I'd be damned if it hasn't been the one.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
let's go ahead and we can jump right into it. This one I think is the first one that's been on. This one's been on the longest, and I think, the reason I know that is because there are multiple times. So again, I think I explained this last time, but I have like a main topic section. Sometimes relates to the beer, as you guys are aware. That's fucking rare, but anyways, there's the main story section, and then I have like backup stuff, and those are the ideas that we think of. I have moved this one from backup to main story and
Mm,
back down to backup at least 5 weeks in a row.
yeah.
And it just hasn't made it. And even though we've kind of dabbled with little bits and pieces of how this relates to the conversation, but I want to go ahead and that's enough of the setup. Um, but it don't, we were talking a lot about AI. Obviously, we're in a world of AI and the world changing around us, it getting smarter. People fear it. Obviously, I think we fear it more because of security reasons, which I agree with, dude. Like this shit, you ask a question to like Chat GPT, and whatever its answer is now becomes public. And
Yeah.
so that answer now becomes something that AI can use. And like there's a lot of risk in that, especially with like proprietary company data, things like that. Like that valid scare. But a lot of people were like, oh, it's going to take over and it's going to kill us. I don't know if that's possible. There's a good chance. And if it were to do it, here's how I propose that it would. I hope it's not listening right now. Most American households, I'm not going to say all, but I'm going to say a lot of American households have a small little robot that we all just welcome with fucking open arms. We're like, we need
Yeah.
this. And it's this little bitty guy, and he puts around your house, and he picks up all. And I'm gonna say picks up. He does a half-ass job at best. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, he
Yeah.
goes around and he picks up all of the dog. At least in my house, he picks up all the dog hair until he hits a rug, and then he vomits that dog hair in large clumps throughout the house. I'm talking about the Roomba.
Yeah.
And as much as they're a pleasure, whenever we're using them without AI, no one thought about it. They were just like, "Oh yeah, it's a bunch of signals. I mean, it's gonna learn your. I mean, you. I want you to give your example of it learning
Learns.
and mapping. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know that it was very innocent. It was like, oh, it's a vacuum. Who cares? But now you're linking them to your Wi-Fi so that you can start them remotely, and they have schedules, and they know when you're away, and they know when you're home, and
They know
obviously they
your
know
floor plan.
whether the lights are on or not because they do all their dirty work in the dark. And
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that if AI, decides at any moment it's going to flip that switch, and now today is when we exterminate, they're going to use the friendship that we've developed with the Roomba against us.
Yeah. So I think that actually there was a like there was like a thing someone was like working with AI, right? Like Chat GPT or something, and was
Hmm.
saying like write a story about like what will happen when AI takes over. And I'm pretty sure that that's the story it wrote, where it was like,
It was
well,
going to be Roombas.
that yeah, I'm pretty sure it was either that or like home, like Alexa or like Google Home or something, but I'm pretty sure it was the Roomba. And it was like, the robots start taking over because they access everyone's internet and usage and everything through Roomba and through robot vacuums, which is pretty
So,
terrifying to think about. Think about how like that was just a thought that you first of all you had this topic months ago. This was a months ago thing. It's been on the back
yeah.
burner for a while, and then I saw that video like I don't know 2 months ago.
All
So
right,
it was
so
after.
here's the thing that flipped me out, dude. Like, so I had this thought in my head. I'm like, dude, that would be the easiest way for AI because everybody, first
Yeah.
off, they're an afterthought, almost like the neglected servant, if you will. Like, they just they just do their thing. Nobody pays attention to. The only time I interact with my Roomba is when it's lost in the house, it's
Mm,
dead, and it's fussing at me, or it needs repairs.
yep.
Okay. That's the only time I ever interact. Other than that, I just assume it's doing its job, right?
Right.
Um, so it's out of sight, out of mind, and it could be doing things all the time that I'd be unaware of because it's low key and it's just keeping its paces. So literally, I had this thought. I'm like, well, AI could immediately take over, and it would be small things at first. They could go and start an electrical fire, or
Right.
they could go and suck up, important document. I don't know exactly how it worked, but it would be small things that they would trigger at
Mm,
first. But here's the crazy thing. As this was going through my head, I was like, oh, this is a good idea for on pod. And then I started typing it into my phone, and then I was like,
wait a second.
fuck, are they gonna know that I'm on
Yeah.
to them now? Like
And now they're gonna
AI's
light you
gonna
on fire.
Exactly, dude. Like that's how critical that moment got. I was like, okay, well then I can't type this into my phone. And then I was like,
Yep.
but I'm gonna write it in a Word document. Obviously, that's held in the cloud. I don't know if you're aware of this. When you pull up Microsoft Word, it's not like you load documents anymore. You can just
Mm.
close this bitch out, and as soon as you come back, it's exactly where it was when you took off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I panicked. I was like, oh shit, I
So
thought about it. I wrote it down. They're gonna know now. And if it wasn't their plan, now it will be their plan
yeah,
because
it's the
I've mapped it
butterfly
out for
effect.
them. Yeah.
It's the butterfly
And then
effect.
the last thing that I wrote was guerrilla army warfare of the future.
Mm,
Roombas? Question
yeah.
mark. They're
You
already
just have a
here.
map out the battlefield.
They're already weaponized. Like basically, all you have to do is convert their good traits to weaponized traits, and
Yeah.
they're here, dude.
Yeah. I never
I don't
thought
want to think
about
about it
the
anymore, but
I never thought about the mapping out part being so important of it to it all.
yeah.
But because like it maps out your house and then you go into the little app and you're like, well, this is the kitchen, this is the living room, this is the bedroom,
So,
stuff like that. So it knows
like
what each part of your house is.
Alexa spies on us verbally, but like
Hmm.
she's limited to where she's at, right? The Roomba knows every square inch of like that. This is a common thing. Like if you ever have an intruder, they always tell you keep your lights off because you know the layout of your house
Yeah.
in the dark better than the intruder. But
Right.
guess who knows it better than I do in the dark?
Mm.
The Roomba.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It's very terrifying. It's very
So
terrifying to think about.
I'm not saying we need to plant any ideas for AI, but like and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Maybe we were getting extreme with this one, and people are like, oh, that could never happen. But like, dude, occasionally our internet, like our Wi-Fi, will go crazy, and I'll be like, damn it, Roomba. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's the start of it. He's like, oh, you guys need this to communicate with the outside world. Well, I'm shutting that shit down.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
it's the
true.
little things. I'm telling
That's
you,
true.
dude.
Hey, it could very listen. We might sound very crazy right now, but when and if it happens, we're not gonna sound crazy. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be like Terminator. That's how it starts.
Although I'm gonna have to say this, pretty much in every single case, you are crazy until you're right.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Oh
with
yeah,
everything, good things and bad things. You know?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
So,
You're
anyways,
always the crazy one.
just a little tidbit to keep in mind. Like we're tapped in, but we're too tapped in, and we don't know. We have
Yeah.
lost control of the things that we built to help us control ourselves.
Hmm. It's crazy. I'm gonna try to tie it into another topic here because, I just mentioned it's kind of it would be like the beginning of Terminator, right?
Yeah.
Which is a classic movie and should be left a classic movie. Okay, it should be left a classic. Let's not remake it and try to add more, political undertones to it or try to make it our own. Let's just leave it as a classic and let's do that with all classic movies from now on because we need to stop remaking them. I'm tired of it. Okay.
So
I saw a thing on Twitter yesterday or X, whatever we want to call it still, that they're remaking The Longest Yard again.
Again.
And I'm like, it
Um,
was good the first time and it was good the second time, but
enough.
let's
Good enough. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't as good as the original, which is exactly why they shouldn't make it again.
There's a lot less juice left, left in the squeeze, I would say, for the
Yeah,
third go
we're
round.
we're we're twisting at the peel at this point. We're twisting at the peel at this point. And I
Um,
understand it's probably because of the lack of new ideas that are coming from Hollywood, right? I mean, so much stuff has been
wasn't there
done.
just a big, massive writer strike too?
Yeah, there was, but I mean, yeah, they could probably be it,
Coincides, maybe?
that could be playing a role in it, but like I realize it's hard to make a lot of original things now based on everything that's come out of Hollywood in the past century or whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah.
But we we don't need to be making remaking the old stuff, man. Just go back and watch the old stuff. It's better.
So, like, okay, I agree with you. I agree with you because there's very few things the second time around that I enjoy. And I'm going to go one step further. There's very few things that the second time around I think are great. But even if, like, for instance, as an example, I'll do what is it, Bad News Bears, right?
Mm,
Like I watched the second one and then I was like, "Oh, this is a good movie." And then I somebody was like, "Oh, it's a remake." And then I
mm,
went back and watched the OG and I was like, "Fuck, dude, the OG killed it. Why did they
yeah.
even?" So even in those scenarios, I usually find the OG to be better. Um, but like let's use Terminator as an example. Like that's too bold. Like they're not going to remake that,
Yeah,
right?
you can't
So I think they're remaking like mid-tier things that like were successful and maybe became cult classics later, but they didn't just slam box office, right?
yeah,
I
cuz
don't
I was going to mention Ghostbusters, but I'm pretty sure that would still fall in that category too. Cuz I don't know what it was like when Ghostbusters came out originally, but
but
I
it's
do
huge
know that
now.
like now it's huge. Yeah. And I know that like, it got big whenever I was old enough to remember it.
Yeah,
But like it had already been out for a long time by then.
a
So
long time.
so
But
I'm kind of in this, and they remade it right with the all women cast, and I was actually totally against it, not because of that, but just because I was like, why are we remaking Ghostbusters?
yeah,
Right?
I
We don't need to
agree.
do it. But I actually did watch it, and like I say with everything else, like yeah, it was good, but
I mean,
it's not the original. It's just
well,
not the
I would
same.
I would say this like having seen the original and even though the second one's fine, like I could have done with like the second one was enjoyable, it wasn't terrible. I could have done without it.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
exactly.
And I
It's a
agree
money grab from Hollywood. It's what it really is.
100%. Also, too, it's like ownership. We have to think about money. It's ownership of the brand, too. Like
Mm,
somebody owns the rights to it. They're trying to get all out of it, everything that they can. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, still, I don't, I really don't agree with it. On the movie front, if there was never another remake, then I would be completely content. Would we miss out on some things? Maybe generationally, would people not be as involved with like these super huge, stellar, like legacy cult classics or like just awesome movies? Possibly generations are going to miss out, but yeah, I agree. Not on the movie front. Now, switching gears a little bit because I told you I was going to pose this question. How do you feel on? I'm in total agreement on the movie front. Like, don't need to like you make it once, you get what you can out of it. People like it, people don't like it, and maybe it's a thing where 10 years later it becomes super popular because the youths pick up on it and they like it and it's
Utes.
funny or whatever, right? Um,
Yeah.
Dude, Napoleon Dynamite was like that. When it came out at first, people were like, "This is fucking trash," and then within like 5 years, people were like,
This is incredible.
the new that is the new baseline for comedy and
Yeah.
awkwardness moving forward." But anyway, all that being said, I agree with you on movies. Where are you at on music though? Because I have a theory, but I want to hear where you're at on music. Is it okay to remake? There can be stipulations. I need you to start with a yes or no, but there can be some talking.
I'm gonna say yes, right?
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to covers, especially like when the bands that I really enjoy cover songs that like my dad grew up listening to, right? So I grew up listening to them, and then I hear my band play it, and I'm like, that's really cool, right? It's still not the original though. Like I still think the originals are better,
Yeah.
right? But I enjoy it. Um, it does. I'm very weird about it though. Like I want the person that's covering it to add enough of their own, you know,
Mhm.
swagger to it, right? Their own sound to it, but also not too much of their own sound to where it takes away from like the original of it. And I this not necessarily about music, but I feel the same way when people sing the national anthem at ball games.
Mhm.
I want you to stay true to it. Maybe add a little bit of flair, but let's not like go all out and change the the tone of it and
Just
whatnot.
just sing it well.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you win me over if it's exactly the version I've heard 100 times, but it's sung very well.
Yes.
At least with the national anthem.
With your own voice. Like,
Yes. I want
yeah.
it to be pure,
Don't
whether you're raspy, whether you're
yeah.
not, whatever. Like, I want it to be just good quality commitment to the vocals. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that's kind of how I feel about if you're going to cover an old song as well. Not to the same degree, but very similar, right? Like you add your own flair, but not too much, kind of
I
thing.
I don't disagree. Like, I need to have some like, I like a couple of different renditions, but this is the way I feel about music. Is you gotta definitely eat the bad ones, like we talked about with
Yeah.
movies, like just remakes that ruin the whole fucking concept of the film.
Yeah.
You're gonna have that in music too. You got to take the bad ones and you got to suffer through those in order to get the good ones. um but there are some great, like, the example, like as you were talking, the example that I thought of, there's two examples that I thought of. One is 1985 by Bowling for Soup, so that's a
Mhm.
cover. um
Really? I didn't know
Yep.
that.
Again, no, a nobody audience. I mean, a nobody band out of the '80s put it out, and they were like, "That's a cool tune, and we like listening to it. The world should know it."
I also thought that Bowling for Soup did Stacy's mom for the longest time.
No, that's the Fountains of Wayne.
Yep. I know.
Yeah. But again, originals, they just did like, I don't think they put it out. They just did like covers of it on stage and stuff.
Mm,
But back to so now I'm way off topic. But like I said, there's some puts and takes. Like, I think, I man, this is gonna kind of lead us a segue, and it's an inappropriate timing, but it does fit. This leads us into a segue into a topic that you're gonna have to exclusively talk about.
oh
But
god.
Luke Combs does a cover of Fast Car by Tracy Chapman.
Hmm.
And it's a pretty nice. He doesn't go crazy with it. He does, it's Luke Combs, obviously, but he keeps true to it. Do I think it's Tracy Chapman? Absolutely not. However, do I think generationally there's a lot of people that are going to go Google Tracy Chapman and find the OG? Yes, because
Yeah.
every time they bring it up, they say Luke Combs cover of Fast Car or whatever. Um, but anyways, to close this topic out, I think it's okay to do it with music for generations to discover the original, and sometimes with music because of production quality, when it was released, and promotional, it just doesn't get the airtime or the
Yeah.
the footprint, I guess, of expansion. And also, like, within reason, it's okay to put different spins on it. But this is mind blowing to me when you were talking about people that are absolutely I don't remember how you phrased it, phenomenal at things or whatever, but so Creed's making a resurgent on their own. This
Yeah.
isn't a remake, okay? And I've always been a big fan. Like, I like Creed, obviously, but I've always been a huge fan of, specifically because of his riffs, Mark Tremonti. You
Mm.
can say what you want about Creed, and you can say we all make fun of the way Scott Stapp sings, and that's what makes them iconic, and their lyrics, and they're religious, and this and that. You could say all of those things. But deep down inside, if we erase all of that, we are still going to love the catchy little riffs that are
Yes.
all Mark Tremonti. Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Now, here's a little known fact that I didn't discover. So I've known a shitload about Creed from beginning to now. And, Mark Tremonti went and did Alter Bridge, and he went and did Tremonti and all these different things after Creed kind of collapsed and all these things. Hands down, not even remotely close. I cannot be more passionate about this. the best ever, not even fucking close, Frank Sinatra cover in your entire life is by Mark Tremonti. Vocals.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that it blows my mind because everywhere he's ever existed, it's only been writing killer riffs in big rock bands.
And not giving out the sweet
No.
vocals.
But I'm talking studio booth, percussionist Mike. He is Sinatra.
Wow.
Absolutely crazy. So go check that out. That's your homework from this week.
That's insane. I'm gonna have to do that too.
Spend 45 minutes talking about how I was like goosebumpy. I was taken aback because obviously he gets destroyed, which I think is unjustified. He gets destroyed because he's Creed, and they just pick them apart because they're,
because they were too popular and they were too good.
Yeah. And but him himself also too, man, just I almost want to say, and then I'm going to draw this line here and then we can get into the topic that I shall not name that you can handle. I almost put him in the boat of RIP as far as season-ending injury, but he's like the Kirk Cousins of rock music.
Right, just the most
He's
average
a really
guy.
good guy. Well, I'm not gonna say average. He's a phenomenally talented person, but he's a really good human being. Like, I don't know all of his life, but just when you watch him do, he watches people do covers of their music, and instead of being like, fucking, you can't, like, come on, we're great, you can't do this. He literally is like, hey, that's not quite the key that I would do it in, but like that's a really good take on it. Or, ooh, I like the way that you didn't do the solo dead on. You kind of put things together yourself. Like, anyways, just all around good guy. And he does a killer Sinatra. So go out and listen to Mark Tremonti cover Frank Sinatra.
I just want to clarify really quick that I don't think Kirk Cousins is average. I used to, but no longer do I think he's average.
Okay, exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
I just have to say that. He's my boy now.
That's how I feel. So the way that you feel about that and the passion that you have because now you understand more about his capability and him as a human being is the same way that I've always felt about Mark Tremonti, but I think the rest of the world needs to get on board.
Yeah. I feel you there. 100%.
But earlier I made a little bit of a reference to Luke Combs, which I think, aside from some other names, need not be mentioned. Kind of head up the clusterfuck that is. This
is the only reason this was ever a topic is because one night I got on this call to do this podcast, and I said, "Man,
I'm clean, man. Let it. This is a catharsis. I'm clean, dude."
I said, "You know what, dude? You know who actually makes some really good music? You know who it is?"
And for the life of me, I would not have guessed this, but go ahead and enlighten us.
Morgan Wallen, man. I fell onto the boat and I couldn't get off. I'm not saying because we've talked before about the fact that like modern country is not country, and a lot of the stuff that he does I don't think is country, but there's some songs in there.
When you just said I fell on the boat, like my only hope for you was that it sank and you fucking drowned. Okay. Like that's the only hope.
Well, I didn't. I fell on the boat and we sped up. Okay, that's what happened.
Good God. Like this is the way that I wrote it down. Morgan Wallen, parentheses. Randall, take this one. Dash star. Not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Okay, listen. It wasn't even supposed to be a topic. I literally just got on one night and was like, dude, you know what? He's making some good stuff.
Like it caught me so off guard, and like it was such like the delivery was fine, but like just a distasteful subject that I had to write it down.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm sitting here listening to every song he releases and just banging over here to it, but dude, there's just a few songs that I just can't stop listening to, man.
Did we talk about? I think we mentioned it, but it wasn't Morgan Wallen. But I think you could fight the same campaign. There was I'm not going to name them and call them out, but I think it was a phenomenal idea. Every time you would go, it was a bar in Fort Worth, and every time you would go to the bar and order like a generic, I think it was to promote like drinking Fort Worth beers. But you would go and order, like even if you ordered a Miller Lite or if you ordered like a Bud Light or whatever it was, you would get a free Fuck Wetzel koozie. And like it was just a hell of a campaign because they were just assuming that like anybody who was purchasing a Bud Light or a Miller Lite was going to be a Wetzel fan. Yeah. And so I was just like that my friends is genius.
Yeah, a little bit of
I
reverse psychology.
Yeah, you could run that campaign with anything for Morgan Wallen, in my opinion. Like you could write that on flip flops and sell it. Free T-shirts. One of those
He's
like
not
flag
even the
programs.
worst of the bunch, dude. Not even by
No,
club. By
he's
it's
not.
by far like one of the better ones.
He's not. But I would say that he's definitely like.
Not
I
country?
mean,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, dude.
I mean, I know for the most part I agree with that, but
He's
there's
he's
some
he's
songs.
he is heading up the Mount Rushmore of the problem. Let's put it that way. I would say.
I think that was like Jason Aldean and like what's the other one's name?
Zach. No, no, no.
Luke Bryan
Luke Bryan.
and Florida Georgia Line. Like those people.
Honestly, theirs is more fitting. I mean, we're not going to have this argument right now, but I
No,
just want
we
it
don't
to
have
be
time for
known
this.
that Randall likes Morgan Wallen. All right, so moving
Some.
on.
But it brings us to another country artist
Ooh,
that
and, dude, I have been waiting for this moment, and honestly,
yeah,
this is not even a topic that. This is a one-liner,
yeah.
okay? And I'm gonna tell you about it, and then I'm gonna tell you how it's written on my paper, and it's been this way for like almost as long as Roomba Revenge. I'm gonna say it was like Roomba Revenge 3.5 months ago or
Mm,
whatever, or 4, and then boom, this was the next topic.
yeah.
So I saw a clip and I knew. So like all right, first off, let me set the stage. Then I'm gonna tell you about why I think this guy fits it, and then I'm gonna read the way that it's written on the page. Okay. So when you think about rebels of country music, and I don't mean Randall's version of country
I
music
don't
with
think
his
he's a
Morgan Wallen.
rebel, dude.
Okay, no, listen.
Stop,
Okay,
stop.
okay, okay, okay.
Out
I
here making me
digress.
look like a clown, dude.
I digress. Well,
Jeez. Rodeo clown.
um, what looks like a clown is your search history on YouTube because
Okay.
I
All right.
guarantee you Morgan Wallen's on there. Anyway,
Rebels
all
of
that
country
being
music.
said, anyways, I think of rebels of country music, and so immediately people go back to like when you say rebels of country music, people immediately go back to outlaws. They're like, oh, Willie and Waylon and
Mm.
Cash. Yes, those are the true rebels. However, much like the WWE of the 90s, there was also a small select group in the 90s that were somewhat rebels, and I give you insert this story. So apparently, at some music awards show, they were not allowing the country music artists. So it was a country music award show. They weren't allowing the country music artists to play live. They had to have backing tracks and vocals that they would lip sync to. And this apparently infuriated a few people, but they went with it. One person who did not agree with this and just showed the world how big of a sack of nuts he had was Alan Jackson. And how did he prove that? By having his drummer use air sticks. So
Mm.
imagine now it cuts to the scene where they're televising it and his drummer's in the background drumming to the song, but there's no drumsticks, which immediately just tells everybody this is fucking fake.
Yeah.
And I thought, how ballsy of a move in the midst of the 90s where, there was this internal strife of what's popular versus what's right. So Alan Jackson to me is the leader of the 90s rebels of country music movement.
He was the opposite of Milli Vanilli.
Correct. Millie was like, I need it. Alan Jackson was like, it can sound like trash, or I will have my people on stage fake it so that the whole world knows they were being
It's
forced
fake.
to do this.
Yeah.
So I think, dude, that's very honorable. But here's how I wrote it. Rebels of Country Music, Alan Jackson, ... spelled wrong. And I don't know why it took me 4 months to like just not Google his name,
Yeah.
but it is Allan. So I think.
I thought it was just ALAN.
No,
Just
really?
one
Let's go
L.
ahead.
I mean, I thought it was, but I could be
That
wrong.
doesn't make sense to me, but you might be.
I mean, I knew an Allen, an ALAN. So,
Um, no. So, oh my God, you are correct.
wow, look at that.
It is Allan. Ladies and gentlemen, no taste for music. However, he's able to spell.
All right, this is just getting ridiculous now.
Okay,
This
so
is
it is
absolutely
Alan.
BS.
And so I did misspell it, and therefore my note to myself that I haven't corrected over the past 4 months was accurate.
Was valid. Yeah. It's true
that.
though. I mean, that's a pretty rebel thing to do, to go against the industry like that when everybody else
Yeah.
just kind of, was like, all right, let's just roll with it then. And he
And
was like,
also
nah.
basically like who gives like fuck it, what are they gonna do? It kind of like, I mean, it's a little more extreme, but kind of like when Nirvana was like started to play Rape Me and MTV was like, no, you can't. Like they had told them weeks before, you can't do this. And then they just opened the show with it anyway. And it like
Yeah.
that's the same equivalent, obviously under
I mean,
different
that
circumstances.
is right. We've talked about on this podcast how like all music is derived from blues, basically, right?
Yeah.
Everything has come from blues. So really, country music in its way is also rock and roll, and that's the most like rock and roll thing to do is to go against the man, right? So it's also
Yes.
kind of the most country thing to do is to go against the man.
Ooh, I am so glad that you brought this up because here's one of the topics that I had on my list that you were unaware of. Um, so I have to bring this up. I'm sorry these are all music related, but that was the perfect segue, and obviously we're incapable of planning those, so I have to
Yeah,
take advantage of this.
look at that.
Um,
That doesn't
we
happen very often.
yeah, so dude, nobody's talking about the other Van Halen. All right, when I say Van Halen, what do you think of?
Um, what is the
Just when I say no, you're overthinking this. When I say Van Halen, what do you think of?
Eddie Van Halen?
Okay, you think of Eddie Van Halen,
Yeah,
or you think of the band Van Halen, or you think of
yeah.
Jump, or you think of Panama, or songs, or whatever.
Well,
So
yeah, that's
I
more like
said Van
Van
Halen.
Hagar. That's Van Hagar, but yeah,
No. It nonetheless, when I say Van Halen, you think Eddie Van Halen.
yeah.
Okay. Are you aware that his brother is the fucking drummer?
No,
Okay.
what?
Yeah. There's another Van Halen. Okay.
So it
And I
should have
try
been
to
Van
explain this.
Halen's.
Yeah. Van
Wow,
Halen's. Okay.
wow,
His brother was the drummer. Okay. And
wow.
does that not okay, so you were unaware. Like obviously I had gone down a rabbit hole like 20 years ago where I knew that. But a lot of people don't realize that, and that's okay. And here's why. Because one, Van Halen is huge and
Yeah,
worth every penny of the movement that they created. And when some like here's the thing that frustrates me. When somebody like there will be like a kid that's a guitarist, or there will be a kid that's passionate about rock music or whatever,
hmm,
and they do an interview and they're like, who is your idol? And they will go Van Halen, and everybody goes, ah, of course. You know why it's okay for Van Halen to be your idol?
why?
Because he fucking
Because he's one of the
he
greatest
is
guitarists
worthy.
ever.
Exactly. He is
Yeah,
worthy of that. Not because he's good at playing the guitar. There's many people that are good at playing the guitar.
he's one of
But
the best
because
though.
I would agree, but also just his mentality about playing guitar. Hey, I've got a structure here, but I'm also going to try to do this with it. Or, hey, I don't have a structure for this, but let me show you how to make it work. He's just
Yeah,
good at putting things together. Anyways, I digress. We don't have time for that. But the fact of the matter is, people forget or are unaware that his brother was
yeah,
the drummer. Okay? Now, I'm going to spin all that into a scenario. First off, how terrible must that be to be rightfully, justifiably overshadowed by your sibling? Because it's not
well,
like,
I
you
mean,
know,
it kind of depends, right? I mean, for some people, they don't really want the spotlight, right? Which I'm sure, like, I know
maybe
I
so.
wouldn't. Like, if I was in a band, I'm not a person that would like want the spotlight. So it'd be like, oh, we got Eddie Van Halen here from Van Halen, and like the brother's just walking by in the background. He's like, yeah, I still get the same amount of money, so that's fine.
Y-
You know what I mean?
yes. You're right. I don't necessarily know enough about his brother to know that, but I would say this. I don't think his brother is the Eddie Van, like, look at, I'm even using his terminology.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
not the Eddie Van Halen of drumming.
Right. Exactly.
However, I will say, if you've ever heard the tune Hot for Teacher,
Yeah.
that drum intro that sounds like a really cammed out motorbike
Yeah.
is drums. And that's his brother. And it's four different time scales stuffed into one on
It's
drums
impressive.
real time. And
Yeah.
so it's very impressive. Like again, I'm not saying, it's kind of like the Ringo Starr argument. Like Ringo Starr was a phenomenal drummer, but not until many, many years later did people respect it because he's
Yeah.
not a Neil Peart. Anyways, there's another brother in Van Halen, and he's the drummer, and he is very, very good, but I don't know if he's the Eddie Van Halen of drumming. That's the whole point I was
Yeah.
trying to make.
Yeah, it's kind of unfair, but also, you don't know who the person is, so
Yeah.
he might be okay with it. I'm sure he's okay with it, but at the same time, you're like, yeah. Why? So, hey, little kid that's a drummer, who's your inspiration? Van Halen. Why Van Halen? Right? That's what people would ask.
Yeah.
Instead of if you said like Rush, they would be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Well, we have
So I
one
just
we have one more music topic here because I
okay.
had a question the other day. Because obviously when I get into a vehicle, right, I think I'm plugging my phone in or I'm hooking my phone up and I'm listening to my music or in a sense just browsing like, the top songs that are out for that area or that time, not area, that time. And just got me thinking because my dad is obviously not doing that, right? And I know that you don't really do that very often. And
Correct.
so I was just sitting here thinking, I want to know what percentage of modern people that drive still listen to the radio.
I think it's a generational thing.
It
I mean,
it
I'm not
definitely
like,
is.
yeah. I mean, obviously, we're only not. I don't think a full Well, we are a full generation apart, but like, I don't know necessarily if the years make. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so I think it's a generational thing, and I don't hear a lot of. There are certain shows, you're well aware of this. There's certain shows that I listen to on the radio religiously,
Right.
FM based shows. Um, and
Well,
you're right. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I can get behind that too. Because like even in high school, right, when I started driving and I had the ability to play my own music whenever I wanted in my truck, in the mornings I would still listen to the birthday scam every morning,
Yeah. Okay.
right? Like I would do that, but like now I think because of like the way society is, right? We skip ads on YouTube, right? We try to stream things where there's no ads in between them so we can skip the advertisements and not have to listen to them. And I think it's gotten the same way with radio because that's how I feel like because my dad's always if you're in the Houston area, 1069 guy, right? Classic rock.
Yeah.
And
The Eagle.
you listen to like four songs and there's like a 7 minute ad break, and you're like,
So
dude, just let me
there,
just let me listen on my phone. We can avoid all this, you
you're
know.
right. I have a couple of points to make. First off, there's a certain number of shows that I listen to, and now that you bring the topic up, everybody that's calling in is my age or older.
Yeah, there's no like, yeah, there's no
Yeah.
one younger doing it.
So I would say whatever the percentage of people that are my age or older is the percentage that would still even remotely approach the radio.
Yeah.
Um, the second thing, and again, this ties back to kind of classic rock in a very inappropriate, stereotypical way, but I think it depends on what you do for a living as well.
Mm.
So a lot of like tradesmen, people that are like in warehouses, people that
Okay.
are
See, this
right,
is a very valid point. Yeah.
because radio is just available, it's free, it's
Background
there, it's
noise.
happening. Yes.
Yeah.
And even though I target myself when I'm listening to radio, whether it's in my truck, whether it's the specific programs that I have to catch, even like I will use which is counterintuitive to your whole point. I use the iHeartRadio app if I'm in a different state and I can't stream the FM show that I listen to
Mm.
organically here.
I
Um,
still consider that radio though. You're still
okay.
listening to the radio.
So all that being said, like I think it's a generational thing. I think that it's myself and older, or it depends on what you do as a trade, or like what the environment that you're in. Here's the other thing, man. I get overwhelmed at times picking, like, even if I'm driving, I get you want to talk about repeat itself. Like, I get
Mm.
tired with things like Spotify or Pandora because they
Mm.
get very repetitive if you fall in this
Mm.
weird algorithm gap. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes problematic. But also, like, dude, I get anxiety. Like today, I had to make a couple of trips across town, and like, I remember getting in my truck, plugging my phone in, and going, God, now I have to think of like what
What I
what do
want
I
to
want to
listen to.
listen? Like, I've already exhausted all my Big Mo, Fat Pat, Devin the Dude. Like, am I gonna swap to like a whole? Like, am I
Yeah.
gonna listen to Creed now and Nickelback and like? But picking that out, whereas the radio, like, it's fail
It
safe,
just
dude.
does
They're
it.
gonna play what's good, and then here's the okay. So my last 2 points are this: it's just gonna do its thing in the background. And when we
Mm.
talk about commercials, honestly, man, I have gotten to a point where I enjoy commercials.
To a
Um,
degree, I can
to a
agree with
to a
that to a
degree,
degree.
like the kids get very, very, very upset about commercials happening on YouTube or commercials happening on Hulu. And I'm like, guys, it's a 1 minute ad. It's not going to kill you. Some of them are funny, like
Yeah.
live the dream. And I'm not saying that I love that about radio, but it doesn't bother me to the point where it's just like, oh, I can't do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I just miss like back in the day where the commercials just used to be better, I feel like.
Oh yeah, for
Right? Like
sure.
yeah, I think we've touched on it before, but like the Real Man of Genius from Bud
Oh
Light,
yeah.
man. Like those, whenever you went to commercial on 94.5 The Buzz back in the early 2000s, you almost piled around the radio to wait for the Bud Light commercials to hear
Oh
what
yeah,
the
for
Real Man of
sure.
Genius was. You know what I mean? Like you almost stopped listening to the music and started listening to the Bud Light commercials. That's what it was about.
Bud Light presents. Yes.
Real Men of Genius.
Real Man of
Yeah.
Genius.
Just the most incredible marketing campaign ever. But I feel like no one really does that anymore. That, has that good of ideas. So commercials are just
No,
different to me.
I think
Also,
there's certain.
YouTube's out here putting out like 30-minute ads sometimes. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
that's ridiculous, guys. Let's get over that. You
I
want to
think
do a
there's
30
some.
seconder or a minute, that's fine. But 30 minutes is crazy.
Occasionally, there's catchy ads that you catch on it. But the last thing I'll say about radio that I think is, I don't want to say it keeps me engaged enough because I love it. First off, I love because when I am on the road, I do a good bit of driving, and I'm usually in an area that I'm not familiar with, and so I love the seek function,
Hmm.
right? Where you can just seek it and you're like, I don't know what's out there. It's like casting a net. And you're
Yeah.
like, what am I gonna hit? Um, and then the other thing is I love when you're listening to radio and like, okay, you're listening to a classic rock radio station. Yeah, you're gonna get some Journey. Yeah, you're gonna get some Boston. Yeah, you're gonna get some Van Halen. But then randomly you'll just get like some Blackfoot and you're like, what?
Ooh.
A beast?
Okay.
In on this. And
All
so
right.
those little gyms are like they're like soccer goals. No, they don't
Yeah.
happen frequently, and you get close and you're just as excited, but when they do score, you're like, "Holy shit." That's what it's
Yeah.
like getting that B-side. Um, to kind of round this out, wrap this up, um, recently, and for those that are unaware, I hate to break the news publicly here. Um, but there's a very, very important I'm not going to call it a radio station. I'm going to call it a way of life, honestly.
Yeah. That's true.
Jokingly a little bit, but not because this one really hit hard. Like I remember in high school, um, there was a radio station called 102.9, the point. No, the planet,
Yeah.
102.9, the planet. And I remember staying up until like midnight when it changed over to like a popular Latino radio
Yeah.
station now, and just hearing the change and being like, holy shit, because the planet was the jam, man. And then there was the point and some other stuff that went on. But recently in H Town, Country Legends 97.1, which I would say, I remember when it came out, I would say I was probably maybe in the, I don't know, seventh grade, sixth grade, seventh grade is when we were blessed with 97.1, and it was Country Legends 97.1.
97.1. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was all just country legends of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Um, and it went off the air as of recent. And I remember being shocked. And the reason I bring this up is because there's probably very few people that even caught it organically because they're probably just not listening to the radio at all. And that's a disservice that we did to 97.1. But also, I find myself trapped in this loophole of what the fuck do I listen to now?
It's kind of
Because
a disservice that people did to themselves if they never heard it, quite honestly.
yes, I agree, but it was very painful to tune it in and be like, what? What
Why
is
is this
going on?
polka music?
And honestly, I thought to myself, because you know how like there's multiple like high definition channels across the same channel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so when I tuned to it, I was like, oh, maybe I'm on like FM of 97.12 or
Yeah.
97.13.
Yeah.
No, no,
It's a very
unfortunately,
somber affair.
it's gone. And honestly, like I know we're joking out loud, like it's a funny topic, but where do you go to get country legends organically now on the radio? And also too, as of late, we've blurred the line. Country legends is really like up to the late 90s and early 2000s, but
Mm-hmm.
that's because most other people have, such as yourself, have
All
fallen
right.
victim to the trash that people are
Yep.
listening to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to tie it back. I'm just saying
I mean,
RIP 97.1.
but you were kind of trying to tie it back, though. I'm
Well,
not
I
trying to
wasn't
tie it back, but
trying.
I'm
It was just a
trying.
fact. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not trying. It's just
it
obvious.
is. It is true, though. It's a very somber time. I just learned about this evening. He just told me this about an hour ago. So
That's because you're not listening to the radio, and if you are, it's some trash that's coming out of Nashville.
I wouldn't listen to that on the radio. I'd just listen to 94.5, brother.
All
That's what I
right.
would do. Come on, now you know that.
I shall give you a free pass.
Well, I appreciate it. We got to get through a couple more topics here.
We do. Do you have you go? We're gonna rapid fire like
Well,
three.
yeah,
Go ahead.
because this one really wasn't a big topic that I had, but I did come up with this one because I was dealing with a lot of insurance stuff, for my health and whatnot, and trying to maybe look at doctors that are a little bit closer to me because I have to drive like, an hour each way to get to my doctors. And so it was just the annoyance of getting a new doctor. And it's not just because of the insurance thing, but because of every time you go into a doctor's office and it's someone that you're not used to seeing, you have to relay the same information to them every time that you've already gone through, right? So they're like, oh, well, what exactly is going on with you? And you're like, well, this, and this that your other doctor already knows, right? And it's just really frustrating and it's really annoying. And I wanted to talk about it briefly, but I didn't really want to make it a whole topic. So that's why we never really used it. I just wanted to
No,
throw it
I
out
mean
there that maybe we should, as a society, make things a lot easier. Let's just
it's
share medical records across
it's
the.
it's essentially the equivalent of filling out. I mean, like submitting your resume and then filling out the fucking form.
Yes, it's the exact same thing as that. You're
Yeah,
right. That's a very valid comparison because
you've
that's
got it.
so frustrating. It's
It's
so like,
pointless.
why am I even sending you my resume if I have to type it all out again? It makes no sense. Just so that you can
100
see I can make a form look professional, I guess. I don't know what the point of that is.
1000%. The other thing is you also like get questions where like you've answered. This is the last thing I'll say on this, but it frustrates me. Like along the way, as you're asked questions, you're answering them as accurately as you can, right? And you're like, oh, this is exactly what's going on here. This is exactly what this, and this. And then when you're changing doctors, now you're having to recall
All of
like
that.
2 years of stuff,
Yeah.
and then you're like, you second guess yourself. You're like, well, shit. I mean, did I have that or did I not have that? Or you know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's not real time accurate. I guess that's
I
frustrating.
feel like it would be the same thing with like a therapist, right? If you were going to see like like a psychiatrist or something,
Yeah.
it'd be the same thing. Like, what happens when you just pick up and go to another one? You have to restart. You know what I mean? Like, that sucks, dude.
But there's so
That's
much that
horrible.
gets there's so much that gets lost in translation. Like
Yeah.
even when you contact, like let's say for instance you have to make an insurance claim, and for some reason that you're doing it with your insurance provider versus with your doctor or whatever.
Hmm.
I feel like we're just like hurling Hail Marys with phone calls out into the ether.
Yeah.
And we're just like,
Essentially, yes.
I hope that they're able to contact the one person that knows what the fuck I'm talking about over at my doctor's office.
Yeah.
Otherwise, pissing in the wind.
And
You know
they're
what I
gonna
mean?
make it so difficult to get that information, anyways, for what no God knows what reason.
Yeah.
I guess you don't want to be giving medical records to anybody, but like at the same time, bro, who's gonna care? Who's really trying to get the information that I snapped my neck 15, 9 years ago? You know what I
The
mean?
I'm not gonna say that it's like the worst thing about being an adult, but like it's definitely bricks around an ankle.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah, it's pulling you down for sure. It's
Yeah.
pulling you down. Anyways, we have one more before we get into our like super rapid fire thing. We got with the love hate relationship with tourism.
I actually have two. I'm
Oh,
going to
okay.
go really, really quickly with the love hate tourism. And really, the only reason I wanted to bring this up is because, like, people that live in tourist towns, which we don't really live in a tourist town, but people that live in a tourist
No,
town, like, you have to absolutely hate tourists because it's shitty. And they're just coming to your town to like just
that
rape it of its goods and then leave.
that's kind of like the same feeling of like having to get a new doctor, right? I feel like as like if you live in a tourist town, you're
Yeah,
constantly having to explain to people
some
like that
the
are
same
coming to your
thing
town
over and over and
yeah,
over.
exactly. So that's yeah, it's
That is a
pretty
very valid point, but like I said, the reason that it's love hate is because like a lot of these towns have nothing else. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like
that's their livelihood.
that is their livelihood. So, suck it up, Buttercup. Like I understand
Mm.
that there's going to be 500,000 people through this bad boy over a Halloween weekend because it's Salem, Massachusetts, but like Salem, Massachusetts is fucking irrelevant otherwise. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
That's kind of how it was like whenever we stopped through at Tombstone, right?
yeah,
Everybody goes to
it's the
Tombstone
point.
because of the freaking movie Tombstone, right? Like everyone loves that movie. So everyone goes there and they want to talk about it. And we went to one of these bars there, and the lady that was, the bartender was like, "We really hate that movie. Like the people that
Yeah.
live here in Tombstone, we hate it. We can't because that's only like 2 weeks of the history, and that's really not even how it really all happened."
And
So,
and and also like respect. Like if you're born and
oh
raised in
yeah,
Tombstone, like if you're born and raised in Tombstone, then by all means hate it and hate the fact that people think of your town that way.
but you need
But like,
it.
do you think that that bartender was born and raised in Tombstone, or did she come to
No,
Tin Bar in
probably not.
Tombstone because everybody's fucking coming to Tombstone? See what I'm
Probably,
saying?
yeah, probably the latter. I didn't sit there and ask her, but also if you live there for a while and you do run into locals, you start to respect the history of it more, I guess. But
Um, So
anyways, yeah, very
that's
valid.
really and then the other reason that it stayed on the list is because apparently at one point I thought it was interesting enough that I didn't want to forget it, so I wrote it on the list again.
Mm, twice. It was a
So I had
twice writer.
duplicates. And it wasn't like obviously what we just explained was probably all that it would have ever been, which is why it could
Yeah,
not have been it could not have stood alone as a topic.
yeah,
So obviously writing it twice, even if I would have repeated that, would have only been a very brief conversation. So thanks for tagging along on that one.
yeah.
The last one before we get to rapid fire, um, is today. My normal barber that I sit with I'm fairly religious to him. You're aware of him. I sit
Yeah.
with him every single time. I was on a reoccurring, honestly, before like travel got in the way. Um, he was out today because I think he's off like Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, if I remember correctly. So I had to get a cut because I'm leaving to go out of town tomorrow. So I had to get a cut. So I try to book anybody else that's there. No one's available. So I have what's called an apprentice cut. Okay, and here's the thing. So they assure me very, very. I'm not going to speak ill of the organization because I still got a very good cut. Everything was fine. Okay, but I'm going to walk you through what went down, and it was very alarming. Very alarming.
Okay.
I cannot stress this enough.
Okay.
So, she's like, "Hey, it's obviously they've already passed bar. Like they're a regular person, but they haven't worked with us for a year, so therefore we call them an apprentice." And I'm like, "Yeah, who gives a shit? Like whatever, right?"
Yeah.
Because I need a cut. So I go and I sit down in the chair, and everything feels normal, feels
Mm-hmm.
good. She's like, "Hey, what's going on with this? How was Halloween? Oh, you got the kids, this and that." She was like, "So where were you whenever we lost the ALCS?" And I was like, "Oh, motherfucker!" Like I was at the
Mm.
game. She was like, "Holy shit, me too." So anyways, we
Oh
started talking
god.
about that. Everything seems normal. She's cut and she's taking a little longer, way a good bit longer than my normal guy, but things are turning out okay. Everything's fine. And then we get to a certain point. She does like some flipping, and then she goes, "I'm gonna need to ask somebody about this.
Oh
Not gonna
god.
fucking lie to me. I'm not gonna fucking lie to anybody. You don't want that to go down."
Yeah.
Because then she went over to the main guy and the guy that owns the place. brought him over and he was like, hey, with this situation, because of kind of how his part and the cowlick is, like, this is what you should do. But then he didn't do it.
Ah,
He just allowed her, which is good teaching.
yeah,
He just
right.
allowed her to do it. But the whole time I'm going, this seems real. This went off the rails real quick.
Yeah,
Like,
everything
this
was
seems
great. Everything was
real
awesome.
different. So honestly, then I lost trust in even the bullshit conversation we were having. Because
Mm,
if she was lying to me about
she
being
wasn't
pretty
at the game.
comfortable, exactly. What else was she lying about? You see what I'm saying?
There's a
So the
lot of
whole
trust in a barber.
yeah, so then I had to go back to a conversation. I don't remember what we were talking about at the time, but then I had to go back to a conversation that essentially was built on fucking lies. And then I knew this was the cherry on top. And I understand she's got to build a clientele, she's got to build shit like that. But the cherry on top was she was like, "Hey, so I'm gonna get you finished up, and then I'm gonna grab a quick video, and then you're good to go." And immediately I was like, "Hey, not a single motherfucker in here that cuts hair every day has ever asked me for a video."
Hmm.
Not once, you know?
Yeah. Was it
So,
was it maybe for the gram, or what you
oh,
think it was,
100%.
or you
She's trying
think
to
it
build
was
the
for,
clientele. Maybe
or
they're
you
going to throw
think,
it online. Maybe it
yeah,
was the first time she's ever done it. She just wanted to be like, hey, I got it done. I don't know.
yeah,
All I'm saying is, you want to talk about hear a pin drop in a
mm.
full barbershop at 5 o'clock on a freaking
When she whipped that
Tuesday.
phone out to record.
No, whenever she was like, I'm going to need to ask somebody about
Oh
this.
God.
And I was like, what?
Oh,
I immediately was
pure
like,
panic.
am I in danger? Like
I'm
that.
in danger.
I'm in danger.
Yeah,
So,
that's not
yeah,
what you want to hear.
you don't ever want to experience a mid-cut guidance check. That's what I'm going
Yeah,
to call
no,
that.
you do not. No,
No,
you do
you do
not.
not. All right. So we are in the home stretch for probably overtime. We've still got a WWYBD and get to those ratings, but I feel
Yeah,
like we
this one's fairly important, I feel like.
very quickly we are putting together a list of petitions that we should start to do because they're slam dunks. Like, this is not something that you'd be like, oh, I'm not sure if I would
Hmm.
put my name on the list. These are fucking slam dunk petitions that
Yeah,
need to happen right now. You can't say no to.
yeah.
Number one, the U.S. Postal Service should pay you back for guaranteed shipments you paid for that don't make it on time.
Yes, 100%.
Why are we not doing that?
100%. That should be something that should have happened long. That should be in the writing of
Dude,
the formation of the USPS.
if you're not willing to put your name on that piece of paper, you're not an American citizen. So I'm
No.
just saying, U.S. Postal Service pays us back for guaranteed. We put our good hard-earned money down on that didn't fucking make it. That's
Yeah.
part of the guarantee. Nobody's at
Yeah.
fault. You didn't get it delivered. Shit happens. I get it. Part of the guarantee is that, like, I should get some money back.
Hey, you go to a restaurant, you order a meal, and you're guaranteed that meal, and you don't get that meal. Guess what? They pay you back, or they don't charge you at all. So same thing.
100%. Number two, because I'm pretty passionate about this. This could have been a full episode, but Kelsey Grammer should make a Christmas album.
Okay.
I don't know who the fuck is thinking that he shouldn't, but he is the modern day Bing Crosby of our generation. And there's not a single thing you can do in the comments section and or personal DMs that would prove me wrong otherwise.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I think that would be the perfect thing for the season.
He was built for radio, even if it's an artificial presence, and he just has a hell of voice. He needs to put out a Christmas album. That's a petition we should start sending around, either in
Yeah.
electronic version or Kelsey Grammer's old enough to where he'll take a paper one. But anyways, moving along.
Yeah.
Let's say I want to put together a petition that doesn't allow people in commercials to say that painter tape doesn't bleed. That's bullshit. We've all used it. No matter how tight you get it to the surface, you paint over the top of it, it fucking bleeds.
Always, every
Um,
time.
yep. Number four, air fresheners that are just not bad smell. Like, I don't want a fart to be covered by vanilla
Right.
or
Right.
fucking somebody smoked a cigarette in a rental car and now it smells like strawberries. I just want it to not smell bad.
Yeah. Let's be honest, trying to cover it up with a good smell makes it worse every time.
Exactly.
It
Like,
only
I just
makes it
want, like,
worse. We just need an air freshener that sucks up bad smell. That's what we need.
Yeah, if Taylor Swift can anti-hero, then we need an anti-smell. That's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, especially because this one's fresh on the mind. Time change. Why are we still doing it? Apparently, it made it like. Also, why are we voting? Like, I understand it's important, but like, why are we voting on it? Why don't we just say we're not doing it anymore? And
Yeah.
also, farmers have not given a fuck for a long time. Like, they're already up when it's dark, and they don't go to sleep until it's dark, regardless of what fucking time it is.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. There should be no vote. Whoever becomes president next should just say, listen, guys, we're done with it. That's it. We're done. No more.
Just,
No
I don't
reason.
want to
It
hear
shouldn't even be a
comments on
petition,
it.
quite honestly.
No, like, we're doing the same shit regardless.
Yep. 100%.
Um, and then lastly, because you had mentioned this one most recently, sports games starting on time.
Yeah. It seems like, especially during football season, seems like games are always starting 15 to 17 minutes late, right? If we get 11 o'clock start time, it should not be 11:15 at kickoff. Everybody should be ready to go at 11 o'clock, and the kickoff should happen at 11 o'clock.
For two reasons. One, we know that it's tied to fucking commercials, probably.
Yes, 100% it is.
Okay. And secondly, we don't need to be getting up earlier than 11 or noon on a Sunday. This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are
I
you
live in the
talking?
central time zone, bitch. I'm not trying to be up earlier than 11 o'clock to watch a ball game.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. As a society, we need to come together and make this happen. All these things.
Like, how disappointing is that? Like the game starts at 12, you get up at 11:55 and then it doesn't start till 12:15.
Well, here's another thing too, right? How many times you got to explain to your wife or your girlfriend, right? Well, the game will be over at 2. But
Ah.
if it don't start until 15 minutes late, it ain't going to end until at least 15 minutes late unless we get lucky.
Also, as greedy Americans, like I sometimes plan my Sundays based on when things are going to end and when things are going to start so that I can watch multiple games. And you want to
Yeah.
talk about fuck up the timing of a brisket or something.
Yeah, exactly. I need to know. We need to make this happen.
I'm just not in on it.
Baseball hasn't been as bad with it, but
No, and they like I think it's because they're so specific. They're like, it's gonna be
7:05.
at 107.
Yeah.
So
107 start time. But they make it happen. That's fine. So,
they do.
all right. We have exhausted the topics. We've done it. We've cleaned the slate. And we're ready for a new beginning coming with the new year. So it's time to get into the WWYBDs for this beer.
Yep.
I'm going to let you roll first.
Okay, so mine is extremely generic. But for me, this is like um a springtime. I know this seems weird, but a springtime holiday front porch beer. I just see myself near a picket fence. I don't think I've ever seen a real life fucking picket fence, but I see myself near a decorative picket fence out in some type of pasture. And I'm drinking this up against it with a group
Like
of family, distant
Easter,
family members.
like Easter type thing.
Yeah, like there was used to be like this like church hall that we would go to, and like there was like receptions at it, and it was out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And like if there was a picket fence around it, I would be there at that picket fence with people that only remotely I know from our family, very, very distant,
Yeah.
not super, super close, having one of these.
The mega catch up talk. So what you been up
Yeah.
to lately? How's life been?
Well, we got two kids now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. 2? When did you have 1? That kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So I went ahead and I got married.
Yeah.
When was that?
12 years ago.
2010, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Like 12 years ago,
It is
roughly.
a mega ketchup, random field, picket fence, Texas beer. And I think maybe it's because it's from Fredericksburg. And that just reminds me of
Probably.
an area that, yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
probably.
WWYBD.
For me, it's like it's a golf cart beer, not a golf beer, but a golf cart beer, right? So whether you're like driving it to the beach or like driving it through the neighborhood or just driving it around your yard, you're on the golf cart and you got one of these bad boys in your cup holder or in your
Yep.
right hand while you're steering with the left, that kind of thing. It's also nice. I would say probably springtime also. I definitely can see the springtime vibe. with
It's
this.
very, very, very drinkable. Like,
Oh yeah, I almost just wanted to say it could be an everyday drinker because it really
yeah,
could, but it's they hold up to the very clean and refreshing
yep.
mouthfeel, which is really nice. All right, let's get into these ratings. I can go first for this one. For entry, I have a 5. Aftertaste, I have a 5. I think it's pretty spot on. It's pretty dang good. Like we said, it's got a really nice mouthfeel. Body, I have a 4. Almost really could be a 5. Also, um, very good, very flavorful, but not like overly crafty. Also,
No, no.
color, I had it a 5. Also, could kind of be a 4. But the head on it was very impressive when we
Yeah.
poured it. So that was why I pushed it to a 5. Bitterness, I have a 5. I think it's pretty spot on for a lager, especially a craft lager. Acidity, I have a 4. Um, it it also could be a 5. It's up there. Little fruitier than like a standard lager, but not too much. Very good. And fizz, I have a 4 as well. The burps came quick. They came often, and they were nice. So that brings my total to a 32. Yeah, it's a very
Wow.
good beer. And I you mentioned Fredericksburg maybe playing a part in your like WWYBD. I don't want to say that the brewery played a part in my rating after looking at what this place looks like, but man, I'll tell you what, if I don't want to drink one of these bad boys at that brewery.
Oh, I mean, if we were to rate, so my rating, this is crazy. Like we usually are fairly close. This one is, I think, I would say significantly different statistically. Not that I don't like the beer. I just think I put down on paper what I thought of it and I keep it there. But if we were to factor in the brewery, fucking sixes, dude.
Dude,
Like
across the
just
board.
I get here's the thing. Go look at this is the last bit of homework. Go look at that place and tell me that you can't smell it from the
Yeah.
pictures. I
Yeah.
swear to God, that's how good it is.
Yeah. Also, you could definitely lean against the fence and drink this there.
Oh, maybe that's what did
Yeah.
it.
That's it.
So, entry, again, no one's right or wrong here, but this is the way I feel
Yeah.
about it. Entry, I have it at a 3. I have aftertaste at a 3. It splits the uprights on lagers for me. Because again, we got to remember our perception of a lager. It splits the uprights it's nothing worse. It's exactly what I expect, but I don't think it's necessarily above and beyond. And which kind of leans into that everyday drinker type thing.
Yeah.
But 3 on entry, 3 on aftertaste. Body, I do have a 4. I think it filled the mouth. It had a crispness to it. It had a fulfillment to it. Color, I have a 4. I think it was beautiful. The head was there a little bit better than just splitting the uprights. Bitterness, I have a 3, exactly where I wanted it to be. Acidity, again, I have it at a 3. There's nothing wrong with being just a perfect 3. Fizz, I did have it a 4. I get a little bit of rumbly in the tumbly, but I know it's not going to be bubble gutty, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And so my total score is only a 24. But a phenomenal beer. It's not a fridge sitter. I will definitely purchase again. I will definitely recommend to many other folks. Is it going to be my lager of choice full time? No. But if it's between this and some other lagers that I've had to endure, then this one's definitely going to be a winner.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very good beer. Looks like a very good brewery, man. I'm gonna have to get there because
Yeah, this is almost like a destination worth it. Could be a weekend, especially if we can stay on site. Heads up, Altstadt.
yeah, if you by chance come across this, somebody that works there, give us the good word. All right, well, we have gotten to the point of the episode where I'm going to tell you to go follow us on social media, on Twitter and TikTok at Off the Tap Pod, and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Off the Tap Podcast.
Oh, baby, I hear the blues are calling. Toss salads and scrambled eggs. I mean, think about it. Christmas album? Fuck.